How wonderful to praise and thank God. We take it further now by listening to our spiritual leader as he delivers his message entitled, Let Us Be Forever Thankful. Let us be forever thankful. All to you, Martin.
A pleasant good morning once again.
Pleasant good morning.
I just said good morning before, right? So that's what I said once again, right? I greet you in love as we worship together for the glory of God.
We greet you in love as we worship together for the glory of God.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving.
And it gives me great pleasure to welcome one and all. I am seeing at least one face who is here for the first time. And I think my daughter's friend, and welcome. Welcome and thanks for coming. And I also say welcome to those who are tuned in to this broadcast this morning via the social media, wherever you may be. And I take this opportunity to introduce myself for the purpose of those who may be tuned in for the first time. I am Martin Bernard, spiritual leader, and I have the distinct pleasure to be spiritual leader of this very august institution here in St. Joseph, the Unity Center for Holistic Living. And we meet every Sunday at 8:30 in the morning, every Sunday without exception at 8:30 in the morning. So you're invited to tune in via social media or to come in person and to be a part of our worship services here every Sunday. And today indeed is a special Sunday because we are celebrating Thanksgiving. So can I hear you say please that this is the day that the Lord has made?
This is the day that the Lord has made.
I shall rejoice and be glad in it.
I shall rejoice and be glad in it.
For this is my Thanksgiving day.
For this is my Thanksgiving day.
You said it because I asked, I want you to say it now as though you really mean it with every nerve and fiber of your being. After all, we have been preparing for this day for quite a while, and we are the ones who have been promoting that this is going to be the best Thanksgiving ever. So let's say it now with every nerve and fiber of our being. That this is the day that the Lord has made.
This is the day that the Lord has made.
We shall rejoice and be glad in it.
We shall rejoice and be glad in it.
For this is my Thanksgiving day.
For this is my Thanksgiving day.
And you know what? I want to tell you something from the very outset. You see that affirmation that you just made? It's really an affirmation that you do not have to wait until a special occasion in order to proclaim it. We should be able to proclaim with propriety and with authority every day of our blessed lives that this is my Thanksgiving day. Every day, we should be able to sing the lyrics to that song and dance to the melody which we began our service with, that this is my Thanksgiving day. For every day is a day in which we can give praise and thanks to the Lord. Not so?
Yes.
So what we are doing here today really should serve as a gentle reminder of what we should be doing all year through. And in this way, friends, we move from being just seasonal thanksgivers. We move from being just seasonal thanksgivers to being perpetual thanksgivers. I want to say that again. We want to move from being just seasonal thanksgivers to being perpetual thanksgivers, where everything we do, we consecrate and we dedicate to the honor and glory of our God 24/7, 365, or in case of a leap year, 366 days per year. And it is for this reason that the title of the message is labeled the way it is. It is entitled the way it is. Let us be, what is the title of the message again? Let us be forever thankful. The marginal note of emphasis there is the word forever. Let us be forever thankful. And perhaps to be forever thankful, we may need to be guided by the counsel and the advice that was given by the Apostle Paul in his epistle to the Thessalonians, which we just read a while ago, coming from 1 Thessalonians 5, verses 16 to 18. What were we told? Rejoice forevermore. Pray without ceasing. In everything give thanks, for this is the will of God in Christ Jesus concerning you. Rejoice forevermore. See, he didn't tell us rejoice only when things are going nicer. or when we feel things going nice, he says what? Rejoice forevermore. So we rejoice in the good times, and even in the seemingly not so good times we rejoice. He told us that in everything, give thanks. It's not a question of being choosy as to what you're going to give thanks about, you know. In everything or in every situation, give praise and thanks to God. Give praise and thanks to the Most High. Knowing that the will of God for us can only be good. That the will of God for us can only be good. So whatever we are going through, we know that only good can be the outcome. And because we know that only good can be the outcome, because we trust God, then we can give praise and thanks to God for anything and in everything. Do you agree?
Yes.
And you know, in another epistle this time to the Romans, he expressed a similar sentiment, Paul that is, when he said, we know that all things work together for good to them that love God, who are called according to his purpose. All things work together for good. So if you really believe that, whatever you're going through, you must know, as I keep saying to you, you must know that you're not just going through, but you're growing through. Because all things work together for good to them that love God. And don't you love God?
Yes.
I guess that's why you're here. And you know, it is clear that there's no shortage, ladies and gentlemen, of biblical support for this business of giving praise and thanks to God. The psalmist tells us as well in Psalm 92, which we also heard a while ago. It is a good thing to give thanks unto the Lord and to sing praises unto thy name, O Most High. I want to tell you something. This business of giving praise and thanks to God, there's a science that is at work. There's a science that is at the back of giving praise and thanks to God. It's not a willy-nilly thing, you know. You know what is the science? It is said that when we are thankful to God, what we are doing inadvertently sometimes is that we are lifting our consciousness to a place where we become even more open and receptive to the blessings that God has in store for us. And the things that we are thankful for increases in supply. I'll say that again. The things that we are thankful for increases in supply. I want to suggest to you, it was the science of thanksgiving that our way-shower, elder brother, and ascended master Jesus Christ used repeatedly when he performed what came to be known as his many miracles. It wasn't a willy-nilly thing, you know. It was a science that he was applying. He was working with divine law and working with this business of the science of thanksgiving to the maximum effect. When, for example, he visited his dead friend Lazarus at the tomb, what is the first thing he pronounced? He said, Father, I thank thee that thou wast here, and I knew that thou hearest me always. Father, I thank thee that thou hast heard me, and I knew that thou hearest me always. In other words, he was applying the science of thanksgiving. And it is after applying the science of thanksgiving, he went on to say, Lazarus, come forth. And Lazarus came forth. But he first said, Father, I thank thee in advance that thou hast heard me, and I knew that thou hearest me always. He was so confident, his faith was so heightened, you know, that he was giving thanks in advance, you know. So it wasn't like if you're full of this thing, you're working, next thing you know, according to Lazarus said, no, he said, Father, I thank thee that thou hast heard me, and I knew that thou hearest me always. And then he said, Lazarus, come forth. Indeed, in the miracle, what has been known as the miracle of the loaves and the fishes, he was applying the science of thanksgiving again. He was applying the science of thanksgiving again. You know, when his disciples were concerned that there would not be enough to feed the masses, you know, and they were very anxious about that, or very worried about that, and they went and said, well, it's best we send the people away. I'm paraphrasing here. It's best we send the people away because there would not be enough to feed them. This is a barren place. Let them go somewhere else where they can get something to eat. Jesus remained very poised, very calm. What did he say? Give ye them to eat. And then he went further in verses 35 and 42. Verses 35 and 40, verses 41 and 42, verses 41 and 42. We started reading from 35, but I'm looking now at 41 and 42. You know, we are told, and I'm quoting here, when he had taken the 5 loaves and the 2 fishes, he looked up to heaven and blessed them. What was that looking up to heaven and blessing all about? He was engaging in the science of thanksgiving in advance. And it is when he looked up to heaven and he blessed, he engaged in the science of thanksgiving, he then redistributed the 5 loaves and the 2 fishes, and they expanded and increased to such an extent that they could have fed the multitude. The science of thanksgiving. And yet he knew that what God has done, that God can do. And what was true of him is potentially true for each and every one of us sitting or standing here or tuned in on the social media. And that if it was possible for him, it is possible for each and every one of us, because each of us has that power of the Christ within us. And that is why he said in John 14, that these things I do and greater things will he do, because I go to the Father. These things I do and greater things will he do, because I go to the Father. So I wish to say to you this morning, you know what? It is at times when there may appear to be lack in your lives. It is at times when you are wondering where the money is going to come from in order to put food on the table. It is at times when you're wondering where the money is going to come from in order to send your children to school. Well, I mean, it's virtual school anyway. You know, to buy the books. It is at times when the prophets of doom and gloom are talking about a very unstable economy and about unstable income. It is at times when you went to do that COVID test and you're shaking in your boots as to what the response will be. That is the time you need to proclaim with propriety and authority, give ye them to eat. That is the time when you need to give praise and thanks to God for his infinite source and resource in which you live and move and have your being. And as you give praise and thanks and you're thankful for his presence in which you live and move and have your being, you can rest assured that his supply will be made manifest. The science of thanksgiving. I myself have not been exempt from some of the challenges that others face in society. Ministers, reverends, pastors, spiritual leaders, call them what you may. We all live in society and we are all exposed to difficulties and challenges. And I am convinced that not because of my handsome face and my 6-pack chest, that is going to chase the debt collectors away. That's not going to charm them away. I still have to pay my bills. But what I have found, friends, is that when I use such occasions, when I may be tempted to wonder where the supply is going to come from, when I use such an occasion to remind myself that in the substance of God I live and move and have my being, and begin to thank God for the supply even if I'm not seeing it as yet, the supply is bound to happen. Hope and faith. So it is intermingled with that as well, which we're also talking about today. And I want to say to you this morning that there is so much for which to be thankful to God about. No one can truthfully say to me that they live such a wretched life that they can find absolutely nothing to be thankful to God about. What I would believe, however, is that some people may take certain things for granted, which if they take some time to reflect and to engage in some introspection, they would recognize that that is enough for which to say, thank thee, thank thee, thank thee, Lord. And, a consoling thought may be this. When you feel you want to wallow in self-pity because you don't have what you think you need, and you're sorrowing and weeping and so on, look around you, and you're sure to find someone who perhaps is suffering more than you, but still saying, thank thee, thank thee, thank thee, Lord. I remember the Lord Pretender, the late Lord Pretender, in his collaboration of that song with Brother Resistance, and in fact, they have good pastor now. He told us in that song, never, never, never worry. No mind how things looking. I might just sing a favor, I forget the words, but I can just refer to it. CJ probably know the words. Never, never, never worry, no mind how things looking bad. Never, never, never worry, no mind how things looking sad. The words to that effect. You must consider, while you're worried, somebody suffering more than you. So there's always something to give God thanks about. As I said this, I remember a story that was once told to me. And I believe I might have shared this story with members of my congregation here, but that's all right if you hear it twice. And I'm sure that there are people who are tuning in on the social media at this time that may not have heard it. But it is a story that shows how there's always something to be thankful to God about, because there's always someone who's in a situation more difficult than yours, and they're still giving thanks. So here, this is how the story goes. Some of you may remember it. There was once this affluent man who, through wanton and extravagant spending, had wasted most of his income. and was about to be bankrupt. And so he stood in the veranda of his mansion, which he was now about to lose as well, pondering his plight, wallowing in self-pity and in regret over his wanton spending, and contemplating about his next move. But while he was doing that, he looked on the pavement ahead of him, and there he saw a seemingly insane man bouncing up and down on the pavement and waving frantically and shouting to the top of his voice. Apparently he's not speaking to anybody in particular, stopping only to dig out of the garbage bin to get something to eat. And the once affluent man, when he saw that, he said, I may be on the verge of losing my house and I have really wasted all of my money and so, but I can still thank God that I still have my mental faculties intact. And if I have my mental faculties intact, then there can always be divine ideas in order to re-accumulate wealth in the future. But the story doesn't end there. The insane man, as he continued pounding on the pavement up and down and shouting to the top of his voice, apparently to no one in particular, and stopping only to eat from the garbage bin. An ambulance was passing by, and when the ambulance passing by, all other motorists have to clear the way because you might end up in the same place they're going to if you don't clear the way. So everybody cleared away. But the ambulance stopped right next to the seemingly insane man. And he had enough opportunity just to peer into the ambulance. And there he saw a man who seemed to be physically in pain and writhing in pain and in anguish and crying. And the seemingly insane man said, people may say that I am mad. People may say that my mental faculties are not intact and that I'm eating out of the garbage bin and so on. But thank God, I am not in physical discomfort. I am not in physical pain or in physical anguish. So I still have something to thank God about. And interestingly, as I talk about these not in the garbage bins, I may have missed it, but somehow I haven't heard any report about any of the homeless people eating out of the garbage bins and getting COVID. Have you heard about that? Somehow I haven't heard about that. But the story doesn't end there. As the sick man was being carried in the ambulance to the nearby emergency department, maybe it was at Mount Hope where you get excellent service, not so? As he reached there and was being peered into the emergency room, he looked around and he saw a corpse covered from head to toe being taken into the mortuary, into the morgue. And you know what he said? He said, I might be experiencing physical pain and anguish and torment, but thank God, I am still alive. Thank God I'm still alive. But the story doesn't finish there. The story doesn't finish there. The corpse, well, of course the dead can't talk. But the family members of the corpse, when they arrived to claim or to identify the body of their dear one, they were overheard as saying, our brother is now dead. But thank God, he is now free from the pain, the anguish and the agony that he endured for years. He's now free from that. So what is the moral of the story? You can always find something to be thankful to God about. And you can always find someone who perhaps is even more challenged than we are and who is still saying, thank thee, thank thee, thank thee, Lord. So there's so much that we can be thankful to God about that we take for granted. You heard that song from Jim Reeves just before the start of the message. We thank thee each morning for a newborn day. Do you remember to thank God for a newborn day? Or do you take that for granted? We thank thee for the sunshine and the air that we breathe. Friends, for the blessed privilege of being able to rise this morning to a bright new sunshiny day. We may take that for granted, but that is enough for which to say thank thee. Thank thee, Lord. That is enough to say that. Because you know what? As we may take that for granted, do you realize that between last night and this morning, not only in Trinidad and Tobago, but throughout the global hemisphere, there are some people who were not privileged to open the lids of their eyes, and we may take that for granted. We were privileged to open the lids of our eyes and to be here and to make that choice to be here, and that is enough for which to say, thank thee, thank thee, thank thee, Lord. And even for those who were not privileged to open the lids of their eyes, and may have died between last night and this morning, we can still say thank thee, God for life. Because we know that the Spirit of the Lord has already gone before them to continue to take them onto paths of pleasantness and onto ways of peace. And that is enough for which to say, thank thee, Lord. as I have already hinted, I want to say to you again, even for the challenges, the pains and the difficulties that you encounter in life, still say, thank thee, Lord. For the pains, the challenges and the difficulties that you encounter in life today can become your blessings and your opportunities of tomorrow. Depending on how you look at them, depending on how you respond, how you react, they can become your blessings and opportunities of tomorrow. So we must know, like Joseph of old, that God meant this for good. How many times, beloved? How many times do you sit and reflect on situations in your life that might have begun in a very difficult way? You know? And have you really, really worried and concerned and troubled? But then you trust in God and things worked out so wonderfully. Things worked out so wonderfully that you look back now with laughter and you wonder what was all the stress and the worry and the bother about back then. That ever happened to you? Huh? You know, when you look back now, you can look back with some laughter. Like, is that had me so stressed out? Look how things work out easily. You know, what was I so worried about? I can tell you of one experience I had. There were several, but I'll share one with you. Time will not permit me to share more than that. I remember when I began my teaching career many moons ago, in fact, nearly 4 decades ago. I began my teaching career. In fact, I was straight out of A-levels. I was what you call them, in those days used to call you AT3, Assistant Teacher 3, you know, with your A-levels. So I was sent to a secondary school to teach Spanish. And I was just about 19, 20. And I don't even call the name of the secondary school. But when I got there, I realized that some of the students I was teaching were taller than I was. They were just a few years younger, both male, and some of the females were taller than me. And I always remember that first day when I was taken to the class by the then vice principal of the school. And I think it was a Form 3 class, which was supposed to be my first class in the timetable. And the vice principal said, okay, boy, they were playing. In fact, I think some of the young men were playing cards in the class. So the vice principal said, okay, stop what you're doing and I want to introduce you to your new Spanish teacher. You haven't had a Spanish teacher for a couple of months, so you have a Spanish teacher now. And I want you to give him every respect, you know. And she said, okay, Mr. Bernard, this is Mr. Bernard. So introduction given and so on. As soon as she left, fellas watched me the streets and they started to play cards again. And I have to tell you, the first few weeks there were very challenging. And I remember at the end of the first week, having taught in that school, I was still living with my mother. And when I went up to my mother that evening, the Friday evening, I said to her, Mom, I'm not going back to teach there. In fact, I'm going to teach anyway at all. I'm going to no school to teach again. I'm done with that. Let me try singing or something, because I like to sing. Let me do a singing for a career or something. I'm going back there. And it was my mother who, to a large extent, was a channel and instrument used by God to have me remain in the teaching service for as long as I did and to end my career as a school principal. But she turned to me that day, I always remember her words. And she said to me, Martin, I never gave birth to a quitter. Monday morning, you will put on your clothes and you will go back and teach the people here in the school, because that is God's purpose for you. And I went back there. And I actually spent about 3.5 years there as an 83 before then being called to Teachers College for further training. And you know what, I'll tell you this. At the end of the 3.5 years that I spent there, just as I was crying at the end of the first week in front of my mother, I left there also in tears, but for a different reason. For a different reason. You know what? I had come to so love, so appreciate and respect those youngsters, both male and female, that I felt sad to have to leave the school. And I can also tell you that my experience there really, really empowered me as a young teacher and enhanced my classroom management strategies and teaching learning strategies to such an extent so that when I went into the training college then after, it was just to put the finishing touches. So many times I would sit back and I would laugh at those days. And I would say, look at the stress and so in that first week, and it turned out to be so beautiful. It turned out to be so beautiful. And sometimes I would meet some of those former students and we'll have a laugh over it. Some of them used to give me trouble, you know, big men and women on, some of them have their own children and all that, you know, and we would laugh at them. Count it all joy, my brethren, when we fall into manifold temptations. We are told this in the book of John 15, verse 11. Count it all joy when we fall into manifold temptations. So friends, give thanks. Give thanks for the good you have already received in manifest form, of course. But also give thanks for the good that is yet to be made manifest. You know, because when you give thanks for the good that is yet to be made manifest, you know what you do? Signs of thanksgiving, you hasten the manifestation of the desired good. And you, as I said before, you bring it to increased supply, that which is what you are praying for. As we are told in Matthew 9, according to your faith, it will be done unto you. So boy, I can tell you, I'm giving thanks for that new car, you know. Even though I see the keys yet, in fact I didn't see the money to buy it yet. But I give him praise and thanks for that new car that is to come. In advance of seeing it. I think it was Blessed Messenger who sang in a song, you know, give thanks to the car, even though you didn't see it yet, give thanks to the house, even though you didn't get the keys yet. So I give him thanks. So when you see sometime in the near future, I turn up with my new vroom vroom, and I ask you all to come outside and bless the new vroom vroom with me. You must know that the process didn't start on that day, but the process would have started from all now, because I give him praise and thanks from all now. And then when you do that, if it is God's will, then it is bound to happen, or as my mother used to say. I don't know where she got that expression from. It is bound to must to happen. She used to put the bound and the must together. So giving thanks in advance is a true expression of faith, the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. And beloved, I want to urge you, do not be complaining over and over about what you don't have. We are too bombarded in society with people who are perpetually complaining about what they don't have rather than focusing on what they have. And they don't realize that when they are focusing on what they don't have, then they stand in the way of their own sunshine. They stand in the way of their own blessings that God has in store for them. Let us focus instead on what we have and what we are about to receive. I must agree with Oprah Winfrey. You know Oprah Winfrey, right? She's fairly popular, right? Oprah Winfrey, I must agree with her when she once expressed, and I quote, be thankful for what you have and you'll end up having more. Be thankful for what you have and you'll end up having more. And she was actually talking the language and the conversation of thanksgiving there, because she was saying in effect that what you're thankful for will increase in supply. That's what she was saying. And she went on to say, if you concentrate on what you don't have, you will never ever have enough. If you concentrate on what you don't have, you will never ever have enough. In other words, you have got to make the choice between doing what? You have got to make the choice between building a prosperity consciousness or a consciousness of lack. You have got to make the choice whether I'm going to build a consciousness of abundance or a consciousness of deficiency. Choose it this day. But be mindful when you're making a choice. Be mindful of the words of the legendary Bob Marley when he sang for us, in the abundance of water, only the fool is thirsty. Let us remember that. And one writer, poet in the person of Alberto Casing tells us in part, in his poem entitled Be Thankful. He says what? To be thankful that you don't already have everything you desire, you know. Because if you did, what would there be to look forward to? And so friends, in closing, we know that we always have something to look forward to. There is always reason to give praise and thanks to God. And so as we go forward from this day onwards, we are giving praise and God and thanks to God for the blessings received, for the blessings that are yet to come, and even for the challenges in our lives that can become our opportunities for tomorrow. Because we want to do this not just on a day set aside for Thanksgiving, but every day of our lives becoming a Thanksgiving day, as we seek to move from being seasonal thanksgivers to being perpetual thanksgivers. And in this way, we become open and receptive to the fulfillment of the promise made to us in Malachi 3 verse 10. To prove me this day, if I would not open out the windows of heaven and pour you out a blessing, so that there would not be room enough in which to receive it. God is blessing you now. Let's come apart for a few moments as we gently close our eyes. Go into a period of meditation. Are we good? Do you have anything soothing you can put on? I'm sorry I didn't ask you before. Just anything soothing.